Sport requires effort, sweat and strong will, and Macron knows it. A leading global company with Italian DNA in the production and sale of sportswear, when Macron first entered the sports world in 1971, it was a small yet strong player. Since then, Macron has been growing at a very fast pace, supporting teams, sportsmen and women at all levels, working hard to supply them with the best technical products to help improve their performances. With over 4 million pieces of stock available in our Italian warehouse and an extensive range of on-field, off-field and free-time products, we cater for everyone from amateurs to professional sporting organisations, even referees. Ranked third most prominent football brand by the UEFA, Macron keeps expanding its presence worldwide, including Australia, where we are currently proud partners of Perth Glory, Macarthur FC, Port Adelaide and Parramatta Eels, and more to come. Work hard, play harder, Macron, your next teamwear partner. For more information, visit our website at www.macronvic.com.au or call us on 1800
Maltese cuisine? Then you need to dine at Georgie's on Vista. Situated in the heart of Fraser Rise, you can't go wrong when it comes to family dining. We have a menu for mum and dad, one for the kids, and one for seniors. Everyone's taken care of. Don't miss our specialty nights. Tuesday night is Parma night, where you get to choose from not one, but 5 different Parmas. Wednesday night, kids eat free with every paying adult meal. Thursday night is members night, where members get the chance to win some great prizes. And Friday night, join us for happy hour between 5:30pm to 7:30pm. Jim, Johnny, Jack and their little brother Schooner are only $5 each. Looking to get an early start Friday afternoon for a punt? Our sports bar with TAB is open from 3pm Friday afternoons. To book your table, email info@georgiesonvista.com.au. Bring the family and come dine at Georgie's on Vista, 46 City Vista Court, Fraser Rise, Plumpton.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to you wherever you may be on this weather-wise topsy-turvy Sunday here in Victoria. And it is episode 71 of the Football Out West show. And boy, is it going to be a huge show tonight. My name is Tonchi Prusak and I will be one of 3 co-hosts, as is the case each Sunday night. And the first one is joining us now, and he is the man that they are starting to nickname Johnny Walker because he is clocking up the steps. I think it's just today alone, he did something like 20-odd Ks. Is that right, Craig Filer? Very warm welcome to you. How are you, mate?
Good evening, Tonch. Good evening, listeners. Yes, I did, mate. Yep. I've done a little bit of a
fitness fanatic, a little fitness fad. Is that right? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, put a little bit of a challenge in for myself to walk 100 kilometers this week. So, big ask, but 27 done. So, hey, do the maths and so a fair bit to do, but hopefully get it all done by Friday. That's the plan.
Well, he might not be a walker, but he certainly is a cyclist in his spare time when he's not covering the football scene. And the third member of our illustrious trio, Steve Curtin. Very, very warm welcome to you, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. I was out doing my bit today, doing a bit of a run around the closed golf course at Queen's Park. So doing my bit to keep up my end as well with a bit of activity today and then a bit of time on the couch as well, catching up on some football action from last night, as I believe you did overnight, Tonchi.
Oh, yeah, I was watching all sorts of, from World Cup qualifiers to obscure fourth-tier competitions in my parents' hometown. It's amazing what streaming services do these days. But the fourth-tier game that was in my parents' hometown in this little town in Croatia, they had just the stream going. There was no commentary, But the guy doing the streaming must have been right amongst all the pack of the yobbos, and every second word you could just hear swear words. It was just you don't get to hear that often these days. It was a blast from the past, standing on the terraces, that's for sure. Folks, we've got a massive show. It's an understatement when we say that. There's no football happening around at the moment in Victoria. And for that very reason, we've got a very, very special guest tonight. Craig, tell us about our guests. And it's, we've got a couple of guests, but do tell us about them.
Yeah, look, coming up first, obviously, given the news late this week that Football Federation have decided to cancel all leagues with immediate effect in Victoria. We've been lucky enough to get the CEO of Football Victoria, Kimon Taliadoros, who's going to come on and have a chat with us about the decision, why the decision was made, and some of the decisions that some people are not particularly happy with, and some that are. So hopefully we'll get a good insight into the decisions that were made, and leave it there, I think. And then following that, time. I think we've agreed that time. If time's on our side, we have got a fantastic interview with Tony Popovich that we did on Friday, late Friday afternoon. And it's a really good insight into Tony's first month at the club, some of his signings, and what Victory supporters can look forward to this coming season, Tonch.
Yeah, it was a good interview. Steve, you were part of it as well. So it went for substantially longer than what we thought it would. So it all depends on time tonight, obviously. But absolutely, that will be a fantastic one if we do have time. We've also got someone else, a very, very special secret guest that is going to be joining us very shortly. Before that, though, Steve, over to you. It's the news desk. Tell us what's been happening in the news desk, and then thereafter we're going to whiz through this because there's a lot of news to get through. But also,
before we do go on, before we do, sorry to interrupt you there. We do have a YouTube channel as well for those that want to listen, and a big shout out.
I know where you're going.
To friend of the show, Santino Mamone, who's allegedly been thrown off Facebook today and banned for 24 hours. It was the whole world had ended this morning when he was sending me texts, and I just said, "Go on to YouTube, mate." And I can see that he's on the YouTube channel. So big shout out to Santini this afternoon.
Santino. He is a Facebook criminal. Not hard to actually be a Facebook criminal these days, but that's why we've got multiple channels for those that do prefer watching it on YouTube or do prefer watching it. And then after, if you're unable to listen, watch it live, you can always listen to it as a podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, where all good podcasts are available. So we've got many, many different platforms, but we digress. Steve, over to you for the news desk.
All right, let's kick off. And as announced at 3 p.m. on Friday, Football Victoria has made the announcement that season 2021 has been cancelled for all Metro Melbourne competitions. And you'll get that graphic on the screen now if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook. And that encompasses everything from at the top of the list there, the NPL women's and the NPL men's, all the way down to the Metropolitan juniors, with everything in between, which includes the estate leagues and your Metropolitan masters and Metropolitan community juniors. It means, as a result of the decision, no relegation, no promotion, no premiers, champions or runners-up named, no best and fairest or golden boot, no final series, and the Football Victoria fee refund policy may apply. More to follow on that. No doubt the door has been left open for regional football to have a potential return should regional Victoria and restrictions have an easing in the coming days. However, at least one competition, the Bendigo Amateur Soccer League, which currently includes clubs from Shepparton these days, has proactively made the decision to end their season already. The door has been left open for clubs in the Doherty Cup final and Nike FC Cup final to still play those cup finals at some point before the end of the calendar year. And
from no football to a lot of football, let's turn our attention now to overseas. A lot of World Cup qualifiers happening in Europe, Steve, overnight.
Yeah, big bunch, and we'll just focus on the ones from the UEFA Confederation that took place overnight as these teams continue their path towards Qatar 2022. And there was wins on, as you can see on the screen there, for Finland, Norway, Serbia, Russia, Slovenia, the Netherlands, and Denmark, who scraped over the line against their Faroe Island counterparts. Also wins for Turkey, a very high-scoring Israeli outfit, and also Scotland and Croatia gained maximum points. Tonight, Wales and England are both expecting wins in their respective games, while the pick of the action at 4:45 includes Switzerland versus Italy and Belgium versus the Czech Republic. So certainly enjoying the international window at the moment. And we've got some tables on the screen there. You can see France, they were held 1-1 by the Ukraine last night. In their match, they're still topping Group D, and you can see Belgium leading Group E and Denmark leading Group F there on the screen at the moment. Turkey leading Group G, and Russia just ahead of Croatia, just on goal difference. I think they're in their group. England leading Poland in Group I, and in Group J, Armenia, the shock leaders, they are leading Germany by 1 point. That would be good to see Armenia qualify. That would be quite a shock. Now,
wouldn't that be interesting? Now, yeah. What else is happening in the world of football?
Big announcement on Friday surrounding women's football in Australia regarding the W League. Investment and expansion is the buzzwords at the moment. APL announced on Friday that Western United, Wellington Phoenix, and the Central Coast Mariners will be joining the fold of the W League. And we believe that will be the Wellington Phoenix will actually get to join this coming season, and Western United and the Central Coast will both join the following season. This development will see an expanded finals series, and there'll also be a new club championship, which will see combined points tallies from the A-League and W League added together to announce who the actual champion club of Australia is each year. So that's an exciting development. There's also a long-term collective bargaining agreement to ensure that there is more investment going into the women's game and done so appropriately. And these are all steps that have been implemented as we lead into 2023 there, and exciting times to come ahead for that. And not only that, we've had a bit of action in England overnight and more to come tonight, because we've got 10 Matildas now in the Women's Super League. And you can see some of those results on your screen there at the moment in the games to come. The opening game, a win for Man United. Also, Aston Villa got the win without their new signing, Emily Gilnick. And Man City had a big win with Hayley Rasso playing a full match while Alana Kennedy appeared off the bench. And you can see tonight you've got Chelsea and Arsenal playing. Chelsea obviously with Sam Kerr, Arsenal with Caitlin Ford, Steph Catley and Lydia Williams in their squad. And then Tottenham is, they've already played against Birmingham City, getting a 1-0 win, and Brighton is playing West Ham, and it's a West Ham side featuring Tamika Yallop and Mackenzie Arnold. And the one I didn't mention, Kaya Simon, also she's at Tottenham these days. So there's a plethora of Matildas going around in that league now, and you can watch it on Optus Sports too. And I caught a bit of action last night. There were some good games going on that we could catch with the EPL not on this weekend.
And last but not least, the Socceroos. They've started their path to the World Cup with a win over China last week. And,
yes. Yep. Yeah, so fresh off their resounding 3-0 win against what was ending up being a hapless China outfit in Doha, the Socceroos are preparing to face Vietnam this Tuesday night in Hanoi. That'll be at 10 o'clock our time. The Socceroos will have the advantage of that match being played behind closed doors, so the home fans won't be there. And as seen in an article today by Josh Thomas in the Sporting News, this morning the Socceroos look likely to make a long-awaited homecoming to play their next fixture of the campaign on October 7 against Oman, with vaccinated fans in line to attend the match, which would be played at Bankwest Stadium, before a subsequent second match would be played at Bankwest Stadium in the following international window in November. Obviously, a bit of water to go under the bridge there, but some exciting developments. It's been 2 years since we last played on home soil against Nepal. And just finally, condolences to all at Green Gully Soccer Club and the family of Roger Borg, after the club announced this week the passing of Roger, their long-serving and well-respected masseuse at the NPL club. And also a little bit of late-breaking news, Sam Almazi has retired from his position as the head coach of Dandenong Thunder's NPL Victoria team. And they were on a very good run, actually, before the season finished, but he's decided to call time on his coaching career. And that's a wrap.
That's for not much sport, not much local football happening. We've got a lot of news in the world of football, and isn't that the beauty of the world game? Now, gents, we've got a massive show today. The numbers are creeping up and climbing up, and we've got a very special guest in Kimon Taliadoros, the CEO of Football Victoria. He's just joined us in the green room, so he'll be joining us very, very shortly. But Craig, I do believe we've got a very special, mysterious guest. Is he ready to come on?
We have, Tonch. Yes, it's
Let's go straight to him.
Yeah, it's none other than the George Cross president. He's always got something to say on football matters. So welcome to the show, Mark Sultana. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Very well. Very well.
Mark, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you. Wish it was under different circumstances, but mate, it's been a tough year. We thought last year was tough, and we thought the worst was past us, but it doesn't seem that is the case. Mate, how are you personally? How are you going, and how's everything with the club?
Oh, look, yeah, struggling with the decision. Club, look, always looking forward as we do as a club, but yeah, look, this is hard to swallow. It's broken our hearts a little bit, I'd say, but again, in saying that, it is what it is, and I just felt that there could have been a few things done different, and again, we are clubs and we do a lot and we try hard and we all want to achieve, and we set a lot of standards at our football club. We employ full-time people to run the club as well as run the football program. So this week wasn't a great week for myself and obviously for so many people in football. And look, there's two sides to the story, I suppose. Two parts that could have gone down, but yeah, Conchi, it's a smack in the face that we probably wanted a little bit more clarity around. That's one thing I'd have to say. But anyway, how are you, mate? How's everything?
Oh, look, it is a tough period. I think it's going to get worse. It is. I think everything and that's the hardest thing is there's just no logic with absolutely anything. Just generally speaking, I suppose football is the one thing that community sport is the one thing that we'd like to keep us, sane. But there is no sanity in the world, Playgrounds are closed when there's 20 cases, and when there's 100 cases, they're reopened. So there's no logic, and we won't get into the politics of politics. We'll stay with the politics of football tonight. Steve, did you have anything to ask Mark? Oh, go on. Sorry, Mark.
No, you go, Steve. Still good.
Yeah, Mark, thanks again for coming on tonight in a difficult week that it has been. Like, where does this leave the club now? Have you had time to process this information? I guess we sort of knew it might have been coming, and where to now?
Oh, that's a great question. Look, I thought a precedent was set in 2019 when they had promotion and no relegation. I thought the fact that we played 2 games after, the break, and we also only had 8 games. And I know 8 games is still a lot of games, and a lot of clubs would say that, they had the potential and still the willing and the drive to obviously win the league and obviously try and get promoted. But I think, what COVID teaches all of us is that you've got to reward. And I think that's probably where we've, slightly missed the boat. I think if we could all just say that, we were promoted, it makes no difference. We're not playing for anything now anyway. So if you were third, you're third. It doesn't really make a huge difference because, again, you're still third and you get nothing out of it. And, again, but those that pushed hard for promotion, not only from the volunteers, from board members, fans, staff. It's 2 years. We had the opportunity to reward, I felt, and I think that anyway, a decision's made. Whether it could be changed, who knows? But again, I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm just trying to understand that we went in there really, really hard, organised, and so many other clubs were the same. And unfortunately, it's not there for us, I suppose. Yeah, and very, very difficult to swallow. A lot of time and effort goes from everyone. And look, this is not a Football Victoria issue. They had to close the season down. There's no question about that. We understand that. They had no choice. They've got a tough job. and we have to support them. And probably people might think that me coming on is not really supporting, but I am. It's just that, we should have had something that we could do and understand as clubs coming back and know what we're playing for, and then obviously structuring your clubs around that outcome. But I'm only one club. I'll hopefully speak for some that I have had chats to some presidents this week, but, it's a real crap time. And I think if we were able to reward our juniors and everything,
Mark, what's the feeling with the other clubs? You just mentioned you've spoken to a few other presidents. You don't need to name names, but what's the general feeling out there in clubland with regards to all of this?
Oh, it's 50-50, I reckon. I agree too. Those that are in relegation positions don't want to get relegated, but in 2019 we promoted and didn't relegate. So, and again, if you were third, fourth, and you're vying for it, yes, but we had an opportunity to reward every structure of football, every bit. Juniors, mini-roos, academies, everything that we did was to try and get a result. And obviously we worked very hard to get that result. And so many clubs do. And I think we could have. I really do. I think, yes, it would have been controversial to some degree, but the fact that we actually rewarded a good percentage of the public that was involved in football in all levels, I thought would have been a great result. But, we'll get better at it and give everybody a chance to come back. Hopefully, some people who are involved in football, it doesn't really knock them out because it's been 2 years. It's a long time. It's a long time. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of everything. And, again, don't know. All I know is, we sponsor this program. We put our clubs out there. We support everybody. You give us a voice. I felt it was necessary for myself to let everybody know what my thoughts were. I think it's important that we do speak up and we sort of come together and understand what the right thing to do. And I just think we missed the boat a little bit here, and I'm allowed to say it, I suppose. I just feel that, I'm there to support my club. I'm also there to support football. I'm also there to support Football Victoria. So, but I've got to express it. It is really, it's hurt. It's actually hurt. And I think we need a voice. We do. We, sometimes stay back and not say too much and think that it's not the right thing to do. But if we can do it in somewhat way where we all come together and understand the effect that it has on all clubs, and it has effect on every football club, don't get me wrong, but it still affects us more than anything now, because you see on some of the Instagram pages from players from Avondale and that saying that, they were 6 points clear or something. And, again, they get nothing for it. And look, I just feel that in these times we could have rewarded clubs, people, participants, stakeholders, sponsors. There's a lot of things it's a lot of things that it's affecting a club like ours, and how you stand strong and bring them all back together and actually explain what's happened, and then you go back to all your stakeholders, and you lift yourselves up again and you try and go for it again. In somewhat way, that can be a big ask. You know what I mean? So and I'm only giving everybody a club's point of view. And they all might turn around and say, "Yeah, but Mark, you were lucky you're on the top." And again, we battled hard to be at the top of the ladder, albeit things went our way in the last game, which was great, but we still battled hard. And, you got the players. And, we've got Chevette down at the club and Peter Cowkey and Lisa and George. And this has been going on for 2 years. It's like, oh, my God.
Yeah, look, Mark, I'll jump in there. I think there's been, and we'll find out from Kimon very shortly. As Tonchi said, he's in the background listening to all of this. But we'll find out. There's clearly been some errors, which we're hoping that we can elaborate on with Kimon. Certainly, one of those is not playing rounds 10 and 11 when we came back after the first shutdown. I think that was a mistake that clearly has happened. That if it hadn't have happened and we'd come back and played those rounds 10 and 11, then a decision may have been much, much easier for Football Federation, given that everybody had played everybody once. So I think that's the biggest mistake that I can see. But again, we don't know what's gone on behind closed doors at Football Victoria, and I'm hoping that Kimon's going to come on and give everybody an open and honest view of what's happened and the reasons why. And as you said, mate, there's a lot of clubs are in your position, not only in State League 1, but right down State League 5 and beyond. And it's tough. It's tough for people that, can't. If I look back at a number of people, I think there's probably players that haven't played a lot of football over the last 2 years, and is that fair and reasonable? So it's disappointing, and I can sense from your voice that it hurts, and I'm sure it hurts every footballer and every football coach and president and supporter and mother and father around Australia, and it's a shame.
Yeah, look, again, look, Craig, I totally agree. And, Football Victoria have not had an easy time at all, okay? At all. Speaking to Harry, he said, Mark, it's tough. Let me know how it affects your club moving forward. I don't know, do we get together more often? It's very hard, obviously, to get all the clubs together at one time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I said, I think we had an opportunity to reward where all the clubs were at, not only from the junior. I mean, how does it affect the juniors? I mean, they did grading games for the NPL boys. Is that all null and void? Do we all start from scratch again? Do we grade our teams again? Like it's a big job. And I just felt that, everyone needed to understand a club's point of view, albeit it's George Cross, and albeit we're very excited with our relationship with football. I think it's there's a lot to happen. It's just we're just 2 years now. 2 years.
Now, Mark, I'm going to ask you a tough. I'm going to ask you a tough question, Mark. We got some really good comments. The comments coming through today in the from the viewers is amazing, is fantastic. Keep that up. And you're reading through a lot of those comments as we're talking here. I'm gauging a lot of let's say us versus them type of a feeling. A lot of people from clubs in the state leagues are saying that they get a much different treatment, maybe an inferior treatment compared to the NPL clubs from Football Victoria. Now, you're a club that's half in the NPL through the juniors, want to be there through the seniors. You go to regular meetings or are privy to regular meetings with the AAFC regarding the National Second Division. So you're a club sort of caught between. You're currently in the state leagues, but you're pushing to get into the NPL and even the National Second Division. Is Football Victoria a little bit too top-heavy with regards to its treatment towards the NPL clubs as opposed to the state league clubs?
No, I think the representation might need to change a little bit. I think what that does is, I think what it has done, it gives clubs like ours that were actually on the brink of not being a club, the ability to reset and actually achieve to get into NPL. If that's what our goal is, and that's what the club's goals are, obviously to rise through the ranks, then you put certain amount of effort over a certain amount of years to get there. And if that's the structure, we agree with the structure because we've all signed off to it. So I don't think that's the case. I think NPL 1 was an issue, as far as I know, that 16 teams up there would have been a struggle to some degree. I thought it would have given everybody more an opportunity to market their clubs and play more games. I think the NPL structure from 1, 2 and 3 is what we all want to achieve. And you know what? It'll be the NPL 1 clubs that will go for the promotion relegation, I believe, in the National Second Division. So we have to respect it. State 1, I've got two parts to that, Tonchi. Some clubs, unfortunately, fall into State 1 for unbeknown reasons. I think some clubs choose when they want to attack in growing and going and jumping from one league to another. I think State 1 is a very difficult competition. It's a huge jump for some clubs to go to NPL 3. It's extremely rewarding. It's extremely marketable. I mean, I don't know. We played enough games, I thought, and whether we were damned if we do and we were damned if we don't from Football Victoria at the end of the day. They're in a very tough position. But if you're going to start selecting from NPL and state, I don't think that's the right message. I think we play the same code. We support each other. We're governed by one federation. And I think by doing it or even commenting on something like that is not the right thing to do. I think what we all understand as football clubs is that times in front of us are going to be extremely struggling from everybody, volunteers. You've got a whole reset again, with no reward, with the fear that it may change again.
Well, listen, Mark,
Listen,
Mark, you talk a lot of sense, mate, and I know you're very passionate about your football club. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it on behalf of a lot of football clubs. I think the fact that you've come on and spoken up is great. We're going to leave it there. We've got Kimon in the room, ready to come on. Let's get him on. Let's get some questions asked to him on everything that you've just come up with and all the issues that everybody else got, and mate, and we'll catch up with you very, very soon.
Again, thank you very much for the support over the years, guys. It's been great, and everyone, they've got to support Football Victoria and get through this. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All the best.
Bye.
Sport requires effort, sweat and strong will, and Macron knows it. A leading global company with Italian DNA in the production and sale of sportswear, when Macron first entered the sports world in 1971, it was a small yet strong player. Since then, Macron has been growing at a very fast pace, supporting teams, sportsmen and women at all levels, working hard to supply them with the best technical products to help improve their performances. With over 4 million pieces of stock available in our Italian warehouse and an extensive range of on-field, off-field and free-time products, we cater for everyone from amateurs to professional sporting organisations, even referees. Ranked third most prominent football brand by the UEFA, Macron keeps expanding its presence worldwide, including Australia, where we are currently proud partners of Perth Glory, Macarthur FC, Port Adelaide and Parramatta Eels, and more to come. Work hard, play harder, Macron, your next teamwear partner. For more information, visit our website at www.macronvic.com.au or call us on 1800-MACRON. 1800-MACRON. Welcome back to the Football Out West Show. It is indeed episode 71, and gee, we have started with a blaze of glory, gents. Some great points there by George Cross President Mark Sultana. But Craig, it's a great pleasure to introduce our next guest, who is ready and itching to come on.
Yeah, look, and as I said right from the outset, we are privileged to get Kimon on. I know it's been a very difficult time for Football Federation. We all understand that. We all understand that the season had to finish. But really, really happy to have the CEO of Football Victoria, Kimon Taliadoros, on the show.
Kimon, good evening and welcome to the Football Out West Show. Welcome back to the Football Out West Show. It's great to have you back again.
Good evening, all. Greetings to you on an unfortunate weekend for football, but happy Father's Day to all those dads out there, and in particular the football family. And thank you for having me on the show, Craig, Tonch, and Steve.
Indeed, thank you, Kimon, and happy Father's Day. That's something we forgot to say, and particularly happy, heavenly happy Father's Day to all those fathers that have passed over the last few months as well. There's been quite a fair few. We've lost quite a fair few. Kimon, let's get back to the football side of things. So the announcement was made, to be expected, but it's caused a lot of reactions in social media circles, I guess, in Clubland and what you're not. And you've heard a little bit of what Mark Sultana, I suppose, the unofficial representative of all the clubs here in Victoria, had to say. But he did have some points. Could in hindsight, I know it's still fresh, could Football Victoria have done things a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think upon reflection, had we been able to draft a set of rules of conditions for the competitions in the event of an incomplete season, as controversial as they may have been in advance of the season, they would have been quite clear. And I think then the expectations would have meant that each club knew where they stood. So certainly that is something that we've identified this year that, of course, we'll need to do. And that process will commence shortly. We will engage in the consultation with the clubs, all clubs, even leading up to this. I'm sure anyone who's worked with or had a conversation with anyone at Football Victoria in the last 6 weeks would understand that we are in touch with as many clubs as we can and always endeavouring to ensure we are gathering as much information as possible, Tonchi. So I think ideally, and of course there are examples around the world and even around Australia that we can draw from. And then, of course, we'll need to arrive at a position, and we'll need to do that with the clubs. And I think then that'll be the base upon which we tackle 2022.
And Kimon, tell us a bit about the last few weeks leading up to the inevitable decision. How has it been for the stress levels of the staff and the feedback that you've been getting from the different clubs, the stakeholders? How has it been managing all of the expectations there in the last few weeks?
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at some of the comments from some of the people who are on the line here, and I think that pretty well sums it up. There's some aggressive and angry commentary. There's some abusive commentary, and equally, we've had some constructive and useful commentary, and that's typical. That's the way. That's the nature of our game. And for me, people like Mark have always been an important indicator, an important litmus test for our decision making. And even in those cases, unfortunately, sometimes we take decisions that result in adverse impacts on clubs, and always regrettable. So I do want to say once again, though, for anyone who represents a club dealing with Football Victoria over the last 6 weeks, in fact over the last 18 months, should have some idea about how hard everyone has been working to keep football on. Last year, criticised for hanging on too long.
Just bear with us a second, Kimon. Tonj, can you just mute yourself? There's some terrible feedback coming back. I'm not sure whether it's coming from your end or not. Sorry, Kimon.
Yeah, so I guess all I'm trying to say here really is that the team in at Football Victoria, including myself, are always trying to do their best for the game and for the clubs. There's no desire to do anything other than that. And our objective and our mission last year and this year was to give football every chance of being played. And when it got to the point, as it did this year and last year, where it didn't appear to us that we could satisfactorily solve the conundrum, we took the decision, and that's what happened during the week. And regrettably, that has meant the end of the 2021 season, and as we still battle through this pandemic.
Just one of the questions that I sort of approached earlier on with Mark. If everybody had played each other once, Kimon, could the decision have been made to have relegation and promotion? And is the reason that hasn't happened because of the situation where rounds 10 and 11 weren't played straight after the first shutdown? Instead, we went to round 12 with 9 and being at the end of the season. Well, could that have been different?
Well, I agree with your observation, Craig. A little bit earlier, you said that if each club had played every other club once, it possibly would have made it a more justifiable reason for making a call on promotion and relegation. But of course, if both are involved, that also would then, of course, have an impact on a number of different clubs, many of whom would obviously be supportive and some of whom, of course, wouldn't be in that circumstance.
But that's always going to be the way, isn't it, Kimon? You're always going to have clubs that are going to be not happy with being relegated because they haven't finished the season and they could have beaten the teams up, but there has to be some kind of outcome to a season, surely.
Yeah, and I think regrettably, with an insufficient amount of football played, Craig, it was too difficult for us to make the determination, and I think that's probably the key issue here. That's not to say that there are clubs there who are leading their competitions who thoroughly deserved and had the opportunity to be promoted, and equally those that weren't to be relegated. Mark's a good example. Preston's another one. Brunswick City. There's a number of them in the NPL, and of course, as you go through the state leagues, it's identical. We have this connected pyramid, and that pyramid goes up to NPL 1, and pleasingly, it'll be then going to a second division, hopefully next year. So there will be, albeit not quite connected to the A-League, certainly as much as we can do in the short to medium term.
And just on that as well, Kimon, one of our listener questions, has Football Victoria come up with a bit of a plan or a framework as to how the future B-League might affect the NPL Victoria if 3 or 4 teams from our NPL are to vacate or depart?
Good question. And I think a lot depends on the format of the B-League, Steve. So, there are 2 models. There's the traditional, home and away type structure, and then the other one that I believe is under consideration and quite popular with certainly FA and a number of member federations and possibly even some clubs is more of a Champions League type format, in which case clubs may well be competing in that as well as their local NPL for a couple of years, or for a period at least, to allow the second division or the B League to develop. So, Steve, that's the current position. As to the timing of the B League, that was also a discussion, and we're very enthusiastic about having that in place for 2022. And of course, that then begs the question: well, who will qualify? Who will qualify for that for Victoria? And I'm glad you're not asking me that one now.
That's for another night, I think, that question, definitely. Tonchi, did you have a question?
Yeah, I've got heaps of questions, but I'll stick to one. Kimon, talking about things that I guess we can't answer at this stage because it might still be fresh, but the issue of refunds, that was a big one last year. It seemed to drag on, and I think that frustrated a lot of clubs. Maybe not so much the outcome, but more the process. Have we learned from last year? Where are we at with regards to that? And is that something that's already been kind of looked at?
Yeah, of course. That's been a consideration throughout this year, and given the decision that's been taken, we will announce our refund policy by the 17th of September. So within 2 weeks, that'll be finalised. And I think the principles remain the same. Tonch, the difference this year, of course, is that we played a lot more football last year. A number of most of the clubs that we dealt with through our negotiations and discussions. Sorry, that's my dog in the background. Hadn't received any significant player registrations, which is, of course, the major revenue stream for most clubs, and so that created a deficit. It created an enormous cash vacuum in the football economy. This year, however, most players have paid, if not almost, the majority of their fees. Same with the clubs. So the principles for any refund are that we apply the funds on a cost apportionment basis. The principle being we always try and maximise the refund or the rebate to clubs where we can, because it's really the clubs that are at the coalface, and the cash flow for them is a critical element for their survival. And for the second year in a row, aside from the player registration fees, the impact from sponsorships, local businesses struggling, has doubled the impact. And so we are extremely conscious of that. And once again, our objective is to get as many clubs through to next year as possible and start a season again. And we can only hope that the health situation surrounding all this provides us with a range of different options, other than the binary ones we feel we have now.
Definitely. And there's a question here from Daniel, who's asked about women's football with no relegation plan in the women's game. Is it something we can look at for 2022 to fix promotion and relegation for the women's game?
Yeah, I think the challenge we've had, and certainly consistent with the women's competition review, is we need more clubs competing in the NPL, and so that requires some engineering to the competitions, and that does mean promotion. And of course, it does also mean then relegation, because we also expect to have the same dynamic in the women's leagues as we do in the men. And of course, this year was the opportunity for NPL for the state league, the Premier League, the Women's Premier League, to increase the number of NPL senior clubs.
Definitely. Okay, Craig. Oh, Craig, you're on mute. You had a really good question queued up too. Have another go. Oh no, he's still on mute. This is not good.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is not good.
Would you like me to ask some of the questions I can see in the commentary as well, because they're good questions? You know, I can see Jeff's asked a good one there. Alex as well. You know, Mutlu.
Let's go with that.
Made a point.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go with Jeff's question. That was a good one, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's asked a couple of good ones, but let's go with that one.
Yep.
All right, the MPLW going to have 8-team league again. Great development for a top league coming into the Women's World Cup. MPLW need to have 10 to 12 teams in 2022. That's a good one, Kimon, because we are running out of time. We think 2 years, there's plenty of time, but the World Cup is only 2 years away, and that's going to come around very quickly. And how do we capitalise in this short time that we have got on this wave of popularity that is going to sweep the country with the Women's World Cup?
That's exactly right, and Jeff's quite right. The prospect of only 8 teams in our senior women's league, our elite women's league, just doesn't seem right. And I think what the other point we have made, of course, is that throughout the competition, for various reasons, there are a number of vacancies that were identified as a result of either clubs withdrawing at some point during the season in some of the men's competitions, or for that matter, to achieve certain numbers in the engineering and design of our leagues. We're constantly battling with that while still trying to respect the traditional promotion and relegation balance. We still feel that as a sport, we can't depart from that fundamental DNA of a football competition, which is home and away, promotion, relegation, and certainly from an Australian perspective, we love finals, don't we? And so that's really, has also been quite contentious amongst the purists as to whether that is really the ultimate way in which to determine a champion. But I think, Jeff, our endeavour would be to try and maximise the investment in the women's game, and it's just premature for me to answer that question specifically. But your question and the point you've made there is absolutely valid.
But if we look, Kimon, at some of the clubs, for example, the VPLW is a great competition, which I covered a lot as in my role as freelance commentator for Galaxy. And Boroondara Eagles and Preston Lions were by far streets ahead of anyone else in that competition. So for them to actually step up to MPLW next season or get the invitation, whether it's extraordinary or not. And the same goes with the state league clubs. George Cross, Brimbank Stallions, dare I say, they're already operating at that NPL3 level. So is there an opportunity, without tying yourself or committing yourself to anything, that there may be extraordinary invitations, because we are living in extraordinary times?
Yeah, look, and they're just a couple of the outstanding clubs that have demonstrated that over several years. I think, Preston have demonstrated that not only are they one of the biggest clubs in Victoria, but they are focused on achieving greatness again, as they did back in the 80s. And so that's evident in the way in which they've gone about their business. So they have aspirations to join the second division. And it's a good example of a club who's recognised not only the importance of having a professional operation and an outstanding facility, but investing equally in the women's game. And that's why, they attracted the likes of Daniel Foden to be able to coach at that club and get the best out of their staff, out of their playing staff, and to be able to attract quality players. So the aspirations of the most disappointing thing about this situation is the aspirations of those outstanding clubs. That for me is my sentiment, my heart goes out to those clubs, and also to Mark's club as well, another outstanding club, Pascoe Vale, have been through hell in the last few years with their facility. They were performing well. I really honestly can't even express how my disappointment at how they would be feeling. It's real, and we also feel it at Football Victoria, because their success and the growth of these clubs is important to us, and we derive great pleasure from that. And it's terribly disappointing for us to be able to have to take a decision like this.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments from viewers talking about the NPL restructure. It seems to me, Kim, on almost every year there is some sort of a restructure. And if we look at the juniors, they've undergone a major reconstruction, but it hasn't had an opportunity to actually implement that in place. But we're talking about the WNPL or NPLW restructure. We're talking about the men's competition as well. It must be frustrating from an administrator's point of view that just the circumstances we find ourselves in, we're not actually able to implement a lot of the recommendations from these various plans.
That's right. That's exactly right. Two disastrous years. There's no other way to describe it. No other state has suffered as we have. And this isn't just football. This is our economy. This is our society. This is what's happening in Victoria, and it's terribly sad. It's terribly sad because we know what football does for communities and for people and for families. We know what it means for kids to look forward to a game on the weekend and to have something special in their lives. This is the tragedy. These are the dire consequences of our friends, our teammates not being able to see one another and enjoy one another's company and share special moments, because that's what football does. It creates lifelong friendships. And we've been denied all that. Not only have we been denied that, but it's been cruel. It's been cruel the way it's happened to us. But we can't. And as a result of that, we've had to take on difficult decisions. But our objective has always been to try and maximise our opportunity to play and retain the integrity of the football as we understand it. And those have been our driving principles. And we have genuinely tried to give ourselves every opportunity to play again this year, and we simply cannot do it for the remainder of the winter season. But as of next week, there are two things that are happening. The first one is we're completing our work on the refund policy, and the second thing is we want to try and find other ways in which people can play, where we can put football on. It may not be a full winter season as we've historically done, but if we can try and find a solution to get people playing again for those that want to, we will. And then, of course, the third thing that does need to happen is we need to never have to face this scenario again. We simply need to have some rules of competition which clearly identify the outcomes if in the event of an incomplete season. And I feel that will also generate its fair share of controversy, but at least we'll have a position before the first ball is kicked in anger next year.
On that one, Tom.
Craig, you're back. You're joining us.
I am, yes. Thanks. Sorry, I did have it turned down. Kimon, just on that one. So there's just 2 points from myself. So there's absolutely no chance of us finishing this season and changing where we currently stand. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's question. And number two, obviously, the second part to what you just said then is having a plan that's going to come out before the next season to all clubs. So everybody is fully aware of scenario X, Y, and Z should these things particularly happen throughout the season. COVID's here to stay. We know that it's not going away. So we're going to have issues. I think that's a really important point, and something that the Football Federation need to do is fully understand that there's going to be situations and make sure that every club is aware of that from the outset. And then whatever happens, but they know about it from the start. Is that what the Football Federation are proposing?
Yeah, I think we need to do that, and I think the clubs need to be comfortable with that as well. We ultimately are charged with the responsibility of making these decisions, but in reality, we do try and take decisions that work for the game and the stakeholders. Based on the principles I alluded to a little earlier, and it's still got to be enough for clubs. The club volunteers who've given the best part of their lives for the last 2 years, not just the work to run the club, But the anxiety during the lockdowns, this is our 6th, the uncertainty, the lack of information, it's still the case. We've had an announcement until the 23rd of September. We do know that from the indications are that our emergence or our roadmap out of COVID this time in Victoria will be different. And we don't quite know what that means. And so, Craig, that may well influence how we go about making those decisions. For example, if it's LGA based, like in Sydney, there's permutations which I think will be really challenging for all of us. But we need the clubs to be interested, and we need the clubs to be back playing. We can't stop the pandemic. All we can try and do is put on football competitions that will work for the clubs as well.
Absolutely. Now, Kimon, we have got someone on the line, John from Brimbank. Now, we do ask all of our callers to be respectful and not to be abusive, or straight away, Craig, who is the control man, he will just end the call straight away there. And I'm sure all of our listeners who will be coming on will be very, very respectful. John, have we got you? John from Brimbank. No, can't hear him.
Yeah, surely you can.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. It's not your alias, Craig, is it?
No.
Craig's gonna have to do a voice or something here.
Now, while we wait for that, Craig, Kim.
You guys.
Hello, John. No, we can't hear him. Now, Kimon, while we wait for that to be rectified, Paul Grisbeck, the president of Lara United, and we are going simulcast onto the Geelong Region Soccer News Facebook page as well. Regionals, at the moment, there's still hope being held out for that. We don't know. Obviously, we don't know what is going on. But he's got a question that says, when will the Geelong leagues, both the senior and junior, that is the community leagues, be called? Have you kind of set yourself a deadline as to, if it extends past September 23, that's it? Or we're just holding out hope for some sort of change in the narrative?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think I'd just go back to that original point. We'd like to try and give ourselves every option to put on football if that's what the clubs want to do. And in Geelong's case, I think if I understand correctly, there are a couple of moving parts. The first one is, can we get access to facilities? Because as a general rule, our shared facilities, that is in local government areas, then revert to cricket, at some point. And Cricket Victoria have been good enough with the state government to grant us an extra couple of weeks, which gave us the opportunity to finish our juniors and mini roos, but it wasn't to be. We do have to turn them back on the 23rd of September. So that's the one thing. The second thing is really what we found is there's a range of views out there in clubland about the level of appetite to return for the balance of the season if they're only starting in October again. So we'd have to have another iteration about that one and just make sure there was enough interest. And if the appetite existed, if it doesn't, that makes it reasonably straightforward. And certainly if it does, we'll do our best. I know how hard, Foddy works down there with the team, and Tonch, you have as well. You've just been a great servant of the game and a great supporter of football in Geelong. So that's
Steve as well. You do such pragmatic.
What's that?
Okay, and Steve as well. Did you know actually Steve does as a shot on a spot on Bay FM. He does great things there.
He's only been around for a little while. He's still got a long way to go before he gets anywhere near you and Foddy.
I wish I was a kid.
That's fair. That's fair.
I was a kid.
Just another question from that I've got here up on the screen here, and I will ask it. It's not that we've been delaying it. Obviously, we've had other questions we want to ask. Is there going to be a restructure of the NPL system?
So, what do you mean by that exactly?
No idea.
You say the restructure, I'll give you one example of there was a discussion earlier this year when a lot depends on what you mean by that, Craig. So, for instance, from a Football Australia perspective, that is Graham Arnold and his technical team, they believe every NPL competition should have a minimum of 16 teams. That is 30 home and away games. That's their view. More minutes, for better players, particularly for our younger talented players. They want the minutes in the kids. And I've seen some comments there, do we actually play enough football? You know, and that's certainly the view from Football Australia, that would be a healthy change. No states have taken that on yet. There's a view that possibly might dilute the standard. So we haven't quite got that one right. So a lot depends on what you mean by the restructure.
Well, I think it's the number of teams in each age. I think, Kimon. So NPL obviously expanding, NPL 2 going into 14 teams, and NPL 3 the same. Is that on the card?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have, I think most NPL clubs know that we are trying to have been kind of move towards a start of our men football, competition review. And unfortunately, that was in 2019, and since then we've had a couple of pandemics. Well, a pandemic and a couple of strains, and a couple of lockdowns. So it's Craig. I think that the best way to answer your question is that our task for next year is to try and get the structure as best as we can within the constraints of the competition guidelines. The competition review recommendations that we've published and shared. And so you will also note that there are, and I alluded to a little bit earlier, that there are a couple of vacancies that have been created, and so that does then put the emphasis back on the team to work through how that best serves the game. One of the other things I just wanted to quickly pick up on is I can see there's a question from David Calthorpe just about the numbers and submissions and ideas on topics such as participation numbers. The short answer is yes. We would welcome the opportunity for those sorts of suggestions. As an organisation, our core business is running a winter football competition. That's what we do. That's why clubs pay their fees. That's why players pay their registrations. But what we also know is that there's enormous demand outside of those competitions. There are people playing five-a-side. There are people playing social football. Certainly, futsal is strong throughout the state. And what that says to us is that there's enormous demand for football, and that Football Victoria needs to take greater responsibility for ensuring that we are doing as much as we can to service that demand. And I do think that because of the pandemic, because of the disruption, we're forced to think more carefully about those options and about those opportunities for the benefit of the game. Not just for the players, not just for the communities, but for the clubs as well. And that's really an important lesson for us that's coming out of this, not just because of last year, but then reinforced again this year, where we can't play enough football. Our clubs are unable to generate the turnover and the activity that they need when the demand is so strong.
Now, we're going to try and get John back on the line. Craig, is that correct?
John is here. John. Can you not hear him, guys?
No.
Unless he's got a bad bout of laryngitis. What was the question he's going to ask?
Whilst John is, maybe Craig, you got to take him off mute, mate. Just once again, looking at Maxi's comment there, that's really interesting there, where he talks about great success in the west of Melbourne by visiting schools, holding fundraising tournaments, and advertising on Facebook and Instagram. I don't know Maxi. I haven't come across Maxi before. Maxi Centich. They're really interesting comments and important for us.
Getting back to David Calthorpe, who's now we've had David back on. Was he not last time when you were on, Kimon? I think David might have actually been on. The ex-AFL player that became a soccer dad or football dad. He had some really great ideas. Years and years ago, we used to have, there was always like fan forums, and there were conferences involving all different, what's the word? Stakeholders.
Yes.
We haven't had something like that for a long, long time. And I guess maybe something like that is overdue, and seeking submissions and things like that. Because just even tonight, there are some good points that people are making. Not just the football side of things, but I know we've had Anthony Grimmer on the show talking about futsal being one element, the running, the coaching, all that. There's so many different elements of running football, the business of football. Is that going to change as a result of all of the experiences we've had over the last 18 months with this pandemic?
Yes, I believe so. I think that there are a couple of issues that I think have been exposed. The first one I think that was exposed last year and I think exacerbated this year is the enormous strain and demand on volunteers. And it's extremely difficult for club officials and club leaders in particular to be able to continue to run organisations with an increasing level of compliance from government and LGAs, as well as Football Victoria. Incredible demands. And I say that because there are options available to parents now. They can send their kids to academies, or they can, and get a good quality football experience. It's not a club. It's not a club as we know it. But these are some of the things where, unless we're able to empower and to support the clubs more capably at the local level, the demands on volunteers are incredible. And last year we see, and across Victorian sport, last year and this year, it's been devastating for the volunteer numbers.
And is there a real
Try you again, John.
Is there a real fear that we're going to lose a lot of people to football? I mean, off air, Craig and I were talking about it today, and he was saying there've been some coaching casualties, there've been some administrator casualties already that we know of unofficially, and we're not going to name names or anything like that, but not necessarily because of the football circumstances, but just life in general at the moment. They're fed up with everything. Is there a real fear that we're going to lose that? And then we always have the problem in football, don't we, that AFL doesn't, lack of resources. How do we tackle that pandemic?
Bloody hell, mate. If I knew that.
It's a tough one. We need to address.
There's no simple solution to that one. We have challenges in a number of levels. I still feel that there are enormous constraints on our growth. We continue to work closely with LGAs, but to be able to expand our season, because we know the demand is considerate, and more money in the system means more ability to reinvest in staff to be able to support clubs, or indeed, ideally, having employed professionals at clubs because of the complexity. Because of the demands, because of the service to the community. Tony, these are all small businesses that are possibly deserving of a different level of commitment, which would allow the hardworking boards and presidents to be in a strategic and governance role, not and emerge from the operations. This is where some of our constraints are, because we have incredibly smart and motivated people running these clubs. But they are worn down week after week with the demands of running a club, and it's not easy. And even people like Mark could hear in his voice how upset and disappointed he is, and I don't know how many hours he puts in personally, and has done for some years, to see the re-emergence of that club.
Okay, listen, I think I've got John back. If we haven't got him back, we'll ask his questions. I'm not sure whether you've got him.
This would be third strike and you're out if it doesn't work.
John, are you there? No, I can't hear you, mate, so I don't know what's going on. So
Can you relay his question?
I can, yes, definitely do that for you. So you had three questions, but we won't maybe not go through all of them. One question he had was, on August the 8th, during our current lockdown, Football Victoria issued a memo confirming promotion. At this stage, the majority of football community realised that the most likely an incomplete season was inevitable. After all the financial investment, apart from FFE, Football Federation fees, that clubs have made to better football and earn promotion, would it be fair for clubs to ask Football Federation to reimburse the investment as Football Federation have failed to hold up their end of the agreement by this decision.
Yeah, I'll probably take issue with the question. I don't think it's based on the principles. Sorry, could you bear with me? Just bear with.
Of course.
I'm just on a call. Okay, there you go. All right.
It's like
2021.
Neighbours are getting restless, so I'm going to have to go shortly. So look, I think the simple answer is, as far as we're concerned, and as John would know, the responsibility of the competition, the rules of competition lie with Football Victoria. The discretion to make these decisions falls upon Football Victoria if they're not specified. I think we've identified the weaknesses in that have occurred over the last, this particular season. In reality, as to how clubs choose to invest is a matter for them. And they did so also with risk, also understanding that we were in the middle of a pandemic. So we simply can't take responsibility for that, but we do take responsibility for the fact that the season was incomplete. And so we recognise that in terms of the fees, even though the fees paid to Football Victoria, would not necessarily be a significant part of their expense. But so I acknowledge John's question, but perhaps don't quite agree with the premise. Just before we move on, I think I've just noticed there, Kevin's getting a bit frustrated. Kevin Squizzy Taylor, he just keeps asking. I think he's talking about the NPL restructure. Kevin, that's what I was talking about a little bit earlier when I said that we still are yet to work out what that can look like. This isn't a promotion relegation decision. That's a case of us working through the vacancies and trying to honour the structure of our competition review. So I think that's the best way to answer your question, if that's okay with you. Hopefully that assists you in understanding that there are two issues at play. There's the decision on the season, and there's the decision then on what that means for continuing to establish competition structures. Finding the regulation of our competition reviews.
All right, Kimon. Touchy.
All right, then. Well, we'll have to probably wind it there. Kimon, we could go on for ages and ages, and hopefully we'll get you back on in the near future with some more uplifting news, I guess. But yeah, look, thank you very much for taking time out. There was heaps of questions to get through, and I apologise for the technical glitches that we've been having throughout the evening. But I think everyone's at home, everyone's using the internet, the bandwidth is being tested. But mate, we look forward to all of those 3 points that you mentioned happening over the next week or two. We look forward to seeing that. It is tough. We know it's difficult, and we're not sort of just saying that just because you're on the program itself. But it is a difficult time, and there's so many unanswered questions. But we wish you all the luck. We wish everyone at Football Victoria. And if we can ask, I guess one thing that we can implore is listen to the punters. There's the constructive things, because there's some very good points there to be made.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Tonch and Steve and Craig. It's always a pleasure. I know you're dedicated custodians of the game as well, and I appreciate the time and effort you invest. Also to those who joined us tonight with the questions and the commentary, thank you. I'm sorry for those that feel that we've made the wrong decision. I genuinely acknowledge why some of you would feel that way. And secondly, I just saw that Kylie joined us, who's a fabulous champion for football as well. So it's nice to see you,
counsellor down in Geelong.
Yep. All right, thanks, gentlemen.
All right, thanks.
Don't stay too long. Get back to the kids for the dads. All right.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us, Kimon. Really appreciate it, mate. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Kimon.
Good on you. Kimon Taliadoros, the CEO of Football Victoria. Gents, the aftermath of it. I know that people aren't going to be all happy. There's going to be a lot of people that are still going to be very unhappy. Look, Kimon, in his defence, he did acknowledge that, and he did acknowledge that things could have been done better in hindsight. But Craig, what do you think? What do you think could be done better? Or let's look at the future. What needs to be done?
Yeah, look, I think as we said, Tosh, certainly a document that comes out at the start of the season goes to every club with scenarios that's not written in stone to start with. It's a letter that goes out with a proposal. There's dialogue with clubs to make sure that the proposals work, and then that's the law. That's what's going to happen. So scenarios, if we get to 70% of the season, this is what's going to happen. That's a start. If we can get that, because this COVID's not going away. We could quite easily be in 2022 and have exactly the same situation. So there has to be some kind of proposal put in place that's documented, that everybody is aware. There's always going to be clubs that are going to be fed up, annoyed, angry, whatever that may look like. But there's far more fed up and angry clubs at this point because of some decisions that were probably the wrong decisions. And the other one is if there are going to be games that's going to called off, play the game from where they finish, not 2 rounds later, because that's what's caused us. I don't care. That's what's caused us the problem here. And if those round 10 and 11 would have been played, the decision to have promotion and relegation would have been clear cut. And I don't think any club would have then had an issue, Touch, if I'm honest, because they would have played each other. They would have played each other.
I totally agree, Steve. Your thoughts on that? So if we finish at round 7 and then all of a sudden there's a lockdown, when we do come out of lockdown, we then continue with round 8. We don't go with round 11 or round 12. Thoughts?
Look, it's probably a bit of an echo chamber, I think, at the moment. I would say that that's something that would be factored into any documents that are put out leading into future seasons, and it won't just be by Football Victoria, it'll be by all sports that are played, because it's an unprecedented couple of years that we've had. It's probably the first time since the World War II, probably the last Great War or something like that, where we've had something so unprecedented as this. And there could be another pandemic again, just like COVID, in the coming years, in 5 or 10 years or something. So I think the framework will be in place, and those points that Craig quite rightly made a spot on. So and I'm sure we'll see documentation come out. And overall, though, it was really good to have Kimon come on, and I really enjoyed hearing what he had to say. And the comments now say it all, really. People are very appreciative of an explanation. And as Mark says, super job, Kimon, because he come on, he faced some people. People are angry. People get angry at all kinds of things these days. But at the end of the day, you can only respect the referee's decision at the end of the day. And there's reasons why it's made. There's logic behind it, and that's the way it is, and that's something to be respected.
And it is. And look, they are. As Mark said earlier, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. You're never going to have 100% happy listeners, happy customers, happy presidents, happy coaches. Just want to touch base with Peter Tanevsky here, who said it's very focused on senior football. Peter, it's about football in general, mate. We're not just talking senior football here. There's a lot of changes need to be made in the game. If Kimon and his team at Football Federation can go away, do their homework, and come up with proposals for next season, then I'm sure we'll all be in a better place for it.
Yeah, great.
Look, I think, ultimately, the fact that we are at a time when there is no football going on, when we're in lockdown, we're still able to debate, relevant football issues such as this is great. That we've, one, got a forum, and two, that we've got the head of Football Victoria willing to come on our show. So we really have to acknowledge that. And look, there was some, as Kimon noted, there were some aggressive, abusive posts. Guys, we don't need that. We don't. 90% of the posts have been fantastic. 90% have been brilliant. We don't need the aggressive, abusive ones, because that's not going to get us anywhere. And look, at the end of the day, people that are,
we're all frustrated.
Yeah, we're all frustrated. We absolutely
as football folk, we invest a lot into the game through different channels, and we're all frustrated. But we have to understand that we are in very, very strange situation. And as Kimon said, we've probably been hit worse than any other state in the country for lockdown. What are we on? Lockdown 53 now. So it's a difficult one, but we're not going to keep everybody happy, mate. So.
This comment, though, I'll agree with him. Michael Long, he says the only aggressive one is the one who keeps asking for shirts. He's talking about himself, Michael.
Yeah, he's a pest, so he's not
an aggressive one. Now, gents, look at the time. It is just, I mean, we could go on till midnight, but it is Father's Day, and wise words from Kimon Taliadoros. Let's keep it short and let's get back to our kids, because at the end of the day, some things, what did Shankly say? Football is not a matter of life or death. It's more important than that. I guess in these days, some things are just as important. We do want to see the kids and what you're not. But our big interview with Tony Popovich, it goes for 28 minutes. We are going to have it tomorrow night in a special Monday night extra for the Football Out West show. So we'll be coming to you live tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So hopefully Santino will be out of lockdown, his 24-hour lockdown, or his 7-day lockdown. It might be over. Nonetheless, if you can't get to us on the Facebook, you can get to us through the YouTube. Gents, we will reconvene tomorrow night for a very, very special Monday night edition of the Football Out West show. We will have the interview with Tony Popovich, which is a damn good one, wasn't it, Craig? Very, very quickly.
It certainly was. Tony gave a great insight into his first month in the role, his signings, and what like I said earlier on, what Victory supporters can expect for 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, we might even have some more scores from overnight as well, from some of the World Cup qualifiers and what you're not as well. So we'll look forward to some more updated stuff tomorrow night. Folks, thank you very much for joining us. Steve, thank you for joining us. Craig as well, thank you for joining us, and pass on our regards to your alter ego, John from Brimbank, who wasn't able to.
I think that's twice he's tried to get on now.
Poor bugger, John. We apologise. Yeah, we apologise.
Thanks to all and also thanks to all the listeners. They're dropping off now, but we've had a fantastic response tonight. Apologies if we couldn't get the answers that we wanted to. Obviously, the situation is very fraught, and we hope that Kimon was able to shed some light on some of the hot topics.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. So, like I said, tomorrow, episode 72, a very special Monday night episode. There will be no Geelong Region Soccer show, but in its place, very special episode of the Football Out West show. So we look forward to that. Don't leave us. Make sure that you join us tomorrow night. Until then, have a wonderful start to the new week, the working week. Good night and all the very, very best.